What's up, people? Sixers fans all across the nation. This is the Scenes from the Spectrum podcast. SixersGraeme, Sixers Justin with you as always. And yeah, it's been a rough couple of days to be a Sixers fan. Justin, how you doing?
I'm all right. Obviously, last night was probably a huge disappointment. I was saying the whole day, all right, this is going to be a blowout. I kind of rather watch the Bucks and the Nets game, but it wasn't a blowout. Obviously, it was just disappointment after disappointment with this team. Obviously, it's regular season and it's not playoff ball. I think we'll see something different during the playoffs, but it's just so rough. I mean, you lose to the Bucks because of Doc Rivers, and now you lose to the Pistons because we always play down to our opponents. It's just frustrating at this point. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, we got 6 games left. I feel like that's enough time to boost some confidence before you get into the playoffs. Like, this is a big thing. Like, you got to boost some confidence in these last stretch of games. You can't have anything like last night. And if you were to have bad games, not necessarily from Embiid, but from the bench, you want to get it out now before it really matters. So that's one thing you can look at. And the other way is just this team's just not built to go far in the playoffs. And that's one thing that's kind of haunting me, and I've been thinking about it last couple of weeks on this podcast. Where like, are you beginning to be scared about this team in the playoffs? And frankly, yes, I'm pretty scared about this team in the playoffs. But the way the playoff picture is looking right now, I do like being in the 4 seed. I think that gives us a pretty good road. One much easier than than it would be if you were the 3 or if you were the 6.
Yeah, kind of anything you can do to avoid the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs is kind of a win on its own. But starting with the Bucks game, I mean, I was there watching it in person. I went down to Wells Fargo for the night, but you watch this team and you watch Doc Rivers throw in a small ball lineup for a majority of the game against Giannis, and you kind of sit there and you're confused because a stat came out after that game. Paul Millsap guarded Giannis for under 2 minutes. Giannis scored 15 points on Paul Millsap in under 2 minutes. I don't understand what Doc Rivers is trying to do. Why are you playing Paul Millsap? Why are you playing a small ball lineup with Giannis on the floor? I was screaming it the entire night. It's just coaching decisions after just bad coaching decisions. And it's so frustrating because you have a good team, put the right rotations together, get the right matchups going. Last time we played in Milwaukee, we had Niang in the starting lineup, and we did a good job containing Giannis. Paul Reed is sitting on the bench. Last time Paul Reed guarded Giannis, he did a pretty good job at containing Giannis. It's just frustrating. You have the guys on the bench that can do it. Use them. Why are we playing Paul Millsap? It never makes sense to me. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't think Paul Millsap brings anything to this team. Neither does DeAndre Jordan, another guy that I actually would have rather seen out there than Paul Millsap,
Yeah.
just because he's a bigger body. But another thing is that like the rotations don't make sense. Like the players in the rotation don't make sense, and then the timing of the rotation on top of that is something else that really messes with me. Like if he wants to play Paul Millsap, right? But the timing of which he plays Paul Millsap is really what irks me with Doc Rivers. So I mean, you can't play Paul Millsap when Shake Milton's the primary ball handler. I mean, that's not going to work, right? You can't play Paul Millsap when you have Niang at the 4 and Danny at the 3. Like that's just like stylistically, that's a nightmare, and that's what causes these good players to take advantage of it, and they do, and that costs games, and that costs seedings. So I feel like yes, Paul Millsap is not a great player, well past his prime. Same with DeAndre Jordan. If he wants to play those players for a limited amount of minutes, that's fine because you do need to give your starter some rest. But it's just the way he plays them and the timing in which he does his rotation minutes, none of it makes sense. And the lack of in-game adjustments is quite comical at this point. It's never like at this point I'm not expecting it, but it just gets bad because you see something like you said, Paul Millsap versus Giannis. You see it and you just do not fix it. I mean, after 4 points, you should see how easy he got it. You should switch it off, or you should change the matchup, or you should start doubling. I mean, you can't keep making the same mistakes and expecting a different result.
Yeah, like you said, after about 4 points or even 6 points, you take a timeout. I don't care if you waste a timeout. You take a timeout and you regroup and you put a different lineup out there. I mean, I know Paul Reed's not NBA ready. We all know that. But he did a great job at containing Giannis last time. He works hard. He gets rebounds. It just will never make sense.
Yeah,
Never make sense in my head.
if you put a guy with a lot of energy in that type of game, that might change some things. If Paul Reed is just out there and he's out there for 5 minutes, but he gives max effort for those 5 minutes, and all of a sudden George Niang knocks a 3 from the wing, and then you get Shake Milton to start knocking some mid-range jumpers, and then, like, the domino effect starts, and you roll that type of momentum into when Embiid and Harden get into the game. But it's just never happened because we couldn't get any type of momentum, and when Embiid and Harden got to the game, we were playing from behind, playing from catch up, the whole way, especially just when Embiid and Harden came in that fourth quarter. It was quite like, what do we do here? We have no momentum. We can't make shots. We're not getting foul calls. And Giannis is getting anything and everything he wants. And Chris Middleton was making big shots. And it was just, it was what took so long for Embiid to get back into the game, and then B for the Paul Millsap experiment. Like I knew it wasn't going to work before he went in. Like I knew that it was probably going to happen at some point once Paul Millsap came into the game. Coach Bud, being a good coach, what he does, he put Giannis into the game and went and told Giannis go in attack mode, because that's what you do when you're a good coach, right? And Doc does that to Embiid, and Embiid pretty much says it himself most times. I will say that, of when he has an inferior defensive opponent against him, he's in attack mode. Giannis did that to Paul Millsap. And Doc Rivers, the other coach, you got to know that. And if you have a better option on the bench, you have to go to that. It's not like it was Paul Millsap or bust. First of all, Paul Millsap played way too many minutes. I don't care if Embiid's not on the court or what the hell he's doing, right? I mean, if you're playing Paul Millsap 9 minutes, that's way too many. He needs to play 5 max. Because
And that's a lot.
yeah, I mean, and you play Joel 39, which is fine, but you gotta have Joel on the court, especially when Giannis is there. If Paul Millsap plays his 9 minutes, it has to be when Giannis is not playing, and you know that because you're gonna put Paul Millsap at your small ball 5, so you have to know that prior to the game and when you're game planning. That was out of the equation. None of that happened. I feel like every minute Paul Millsap was out there, so was Giannis. So that just didn't make sense. And you look at Bud. It was just it made it too easy for Budenholzer. I mean, like it was just like, here's Paul Millsap. Here, like, get Giannis some points. And yes, rest of the Bucks team did play well, and they were able to make some shots, and they played pretty good defensively. But it was Doc Rivers with some head scratchers. And yeah, like I said, the timing of the rotations are like something a second grader would write. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and with the coaching, a lot of the times it's a chess match between these two coaches. Who can put out the better lineups? Who's going to get the better matchups on offense and who's going to score off those matchups and everything. And Coach Bud out out coached Doc Rivers, put out better lineups, rotations, got the mismatches he wanted. Just it was a train wreck, and it's just frustrating because it's like, how many times are we gonna lose over coaching decisions? And it's I've wanted Doc Rivers gone for a while now, but I'm so frustrated with Doc Rivers that I've really lowered my expectations for this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, any lead in the third quarter is not good. Any lead in the second quarter is not good. Any lead, like in any quarter, like if you have a 10-point lead and there's 8 minutes left, not a good feeling at all. And that's like a prime Doc Rivers choke moment when you have a double digit lead and there's like 8, 9, 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's something that's like, yeah, this is about to be a loss. You kind of have that feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just what we come to expect. Doc just, I mean, he just needs to find something that works and use it until it doesn't. I feel like we try and force too many things that don't work and try and make them to work. And when we find something that does work, we move away from it. So, uh, do I have faith he'll be better in the playoffs? Absolutely not. If we go far in the playoffs, it will be because of Joel Embiid and James Harden. It will not be because of Doc Rivers.
Yeah, and going back to the Bucks game, near the end of the second quarter, this goes back to a coaching decision where, you run the Embiid and Harden pick and roll, and it's very effective, and you grow your lead, and then you stop running it. You run it a few times for the rest of the game, and w- Sixers fans sit there and we're like, Harden and Embiid pick and roll works. Embiid can roll to the basket. Harden is a great passer, one of the best in the league. Why are we not running the pick and roll a lot more? It's frustrating because we scored so many points off of it. There was like a 4 minute run in the second quarter of the Bucks game where they could not stop the pick and roll, and then you just stop going to it down the stretch, and that's a huge frustrating part about Doc Rivers. But back to your point about the blown leads, like as a Sixers fan, I can't sit there and enjoy a comfortable game because he always blows it. I mean, we make jokes on Twitter, but saying like, oh, 20-point lead, like we don't feel safe about this, like
Yeah,
this game's
that
going to
that's become a
overtime or
reality.
something. Yeah,
Like, that's actually, like, real.
it's literally become a reality, and it's frustrating. Like I tweeted out the Clippers game, we held a 25-point lead throughout the whole game. I literally tweeted out, "Wow, I didn't have to stress about that at all. Like we actually held a lead. Good job." Like that, you should not be getting praised for not blowing a lead. Like it's embarrassing at this point.
Yeah, definitely is embarrassing, and I think that Doc Rivers, there's 3 things I like in a coach. It's, first of all, good game plans. And I think Doc Rivers actually has decent game plans. Like he knows how to exploit, in the film room. He understands like breaking down, getting ready for opponents. I actually think Doc Rivers does that pretty well. And the other two parts are in-game adjustments, in rotations, slash rotations, same things. Um, he's abysmal. And then the third part is the ability to create and draw up plays and find something that works, especially in the clutch, and he might be even worse at that. So there's the out of the 3 things I like in a coach on strictly on the court. I'm like, I don't want to get into if he's a good guy or not. The 3 things: Doc Rivers is all right at one, and then absolutely terrible at the other 2. And that's one thing that it hasn't changed. I'm not gonna expect it to change. He did it in Los Angeles, and Clippers fans know about it. And when we have these post game spaces, we usually have a Clipper fan or two that'll chime in and say, "Yes, we understand. We know your pain." And the thing about it is, the reality is, we're still paying Brett Brown. Doc Rivers is going to be here for another couple of years. So yeah, it's I don't even want to think about that, to be honest, because it's a harsh reality that Doc Rivers is stubborn. He won't change. He's not a great coach. His style of play, I don't think it's not built to have success in the year 2022, and he's going to be here forever. And we just have to hope he's going to change, which I promise you he's not going to.
Yeah, he hasn't changed his whole entire career. I mean, I tweeted out this morning that Doc Rivers is a very overrated coach, overshadowed by a was it
Uh,
2008 Celtics
this
team.
this
This
incredible Celtics team that
this
Doc Rivers.
2008 super team,
Okay,
it
so
just
look,
overshadows everything.
for some reason, super teams, and especially their coach, They never get like praise, but Doc Rivers is the only exception to that. Like I don't like that makes no sense to me, for real. Like I've never seen a coach get so much praise for coaching a super team than Doc Rivers, and we're talking about like a big four. You know,
Yep.
I've like even when Doc was even when we hired Doc, and I was kind of excited, not necessarily for Doc, but more or less Brett was gone, and it was it was like, all right, but I mean, I've never seen a coach give that much praise to coach four superstar players at the same time. And I always thought that was weird. And he's still riding on the coattails of just being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, what was it? A couple weeks ago, he got named top 15 coaches of all time, which
Yeah, it was
I mean,
laughable. It was
I
laughable.
saw I saw that and I was like, "Wow, what a joke." I mean, talk about overrated. Oh my god, just carried to a championship by a super team. He has one ring. He chokes
Look, and I'll
all
tell you,
every time in the playoffs. It's
even
frustrating.
even with one season under his belt in Philadelphia, that Hawks loss overrides any championship he had with four great players. I don't care. That loss was that bad that his championship where he had great players means nothing to me. Means absolutely nothing to me. And yeah, I think that I just don't understand if you can look at what happened last year and what's happened so far this year and still think that Doc Rivers is a good coach. And if you can go back to the Clippers, it's the same thing that has happened to the Clippers. And yeah, I've seen some of these Harden fans, which they'll hop around some teams. Nothing wrong with that. Be a fan of who you want to be. Just don't act like a Sixers fan. If you as long as you do that, we're gonna be cool. But I've seen there's one guy in particular who he's like a James Harden and Paul George fan talking about, I can't believe Doc Rivers has ruined two of my favorite teams. And I thought that was like, wow, imagine being being a Paul George fan and then now being a James Harden fan where you're watching these two guys night in, night out. And you have to be they have to be coached by Doc Rivers. I thought it was funny. It was like, wow, that's a real trauma right there. Having to watch Doc Rivers it from two different teams right when you thought you got away from them. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Just yeah, like you said, we're still paying Brett Brown. Doc Rivers is as much as I want him fired. I don't know if I doubt it's gonna happen. I mean,
No,
we're good.
financially, it's a terrible decision
Yeah,
to fire Doc Rivers, and right
it's
now,
a 5-year deal, and he's getting paid a lot of money, right?
yeah, he's getting
Okay.
paid a lot of money, and I wouldn't expect him. I would expect him 3 more years for sure. I feel like there's no question Doc Rivers is getting 3 more years,
Hmm.
and which would be his contract, I believe, unless yes, I think so.
Yeah, 3 more
Yes,
years
so
will be the
I
end of
would
his
expect his
contract.
contract to be up and then it not to be renewed.
Hmm.
Um, The problem is with that is I feel like we have two really good, assistants in Dave Yeager and Dan Burke of where like if you wait that long, those guys are going to get snatched up and they're going to have head coaching jobs. That's
And
my
Sam
only
Cassell.
and Sam Cassell. Like those are like, we have three really good assistant coaches and I feel like if we wait the next 3 years it's gonna be none of those guys. Like they're all gonna have head coaching jobs, and they should. I mean, they're great coaches. And I don't know what you can do from that. I know it's a hypothetical, but that's very realistic. That once Doc Rivers' contract is over, the great assistant coaching staff we have is no longer.
Yeah, it's gonna be really unfortunate that we're gonna lose these guys. I mean, like super teams, we have a super team of assistant coaches and then
Yes.
in a horrible, horrible head coach. It's frustrating. I mean, how much longer are we gonna do this? Like you said a few minutes ago, he has decent game plans, but it's all about execution, and he does not do
Yep.
that.
That's exactly right.
It's frustrating. I mean, It's like I said earlier, it's a chess match between these two coaches of who puts out the better game plan, who can execute, who can put the right rotations out, lineups out, everything. And Doc Rivers loses in that matchup 99% of the time. And going down the stretch, you have to make in-game adjustments, and Doc Rivers is known for being bad at it. It's why he's blown so many leads. It's why he's blown 3-1 leads, Hawks series, everything. In-game adjustments, and all fans are watching at home screaming at our TV, "Why can't you make these adjustments?" It's just frustrating game after game to just go through this every time.
Yeah, and, it's just, the lead blown is Doc Rivers. It's not necessarily a Sixers thing, even though, like, we blow leads. I mean, it's okay, we get it. Like, even, with Brett Brown, we were blowing some leads, but it was not like this. And, this is a Doc Rivers problem, less of a 76ers problem. I want people to understand that. It's not a Joel Embiid problem. It's not a James Harden problem. Doc Rivers was blowing leads long before Joel Embiid, and James Harden. So there can only be one common denominator, and that is Doc Rivers. And it's getting to a point now where it's just like all you could do is laugh. Like it's just funny. Like let's see how we blow this lead. Like seriously, and then it's happening. Like it happens more often than not. And there's and not necessarily like blowing leads, but games that we had won and then became close at the end. Those are other things like in the playoffs, a certain guy hits a certain shot at a certain time, and then all of a sudden that almost win is a loss. And I think we saw that firsthand last season against the Hawks. Um, and that's something that's surprising me too because I mean there's a lot of games where you're winning easily and the team just creeps up on you at the end. They make it competitive. You still win, but it was a competitive game. The Hawks did that to us in the playoffs last year, and they won those games. We're talking about Sixers having third quarter leads, big halftime leads. Instead of, they just creeped up and the Sixers still won. They made it close at the end, a respectable. No, no, no. The Hawks won those games. And that's playoff basketball. The right players hit the right shots at the right time, you lose games. And that's another thing, especially against the Bulls. That's what they do. They have shot makers. If DeMar DeRozan makes a shot at a big time at the right time, and all of a sudden that you hold on to win after having a big lead, that's a loss. That's one thing that really really concerns me, and that's just from regular season and how Doc Rivers is going to translate to the playoffs because we have a year under our belt, and that's exactly what happened last season.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't see this kind of stuff with Brett Brown. Obviously, Brett Brown, his time was over, but he wasn't doing things like as bad as Doc Rivers. But it, it's just he goes all the way back to the Clippers days. I mean, even before that, he was doing this. It's just we're not going to win a championship with Doc Rivers as our head coach, and it'll take a miracle for us to win a finals with Doc Rivers coaching this team. But over the past few games, my expectations have lowered for this team. Uh, and last night you kind of sit there and you can't do anything but laugh,
Yep.
laugh at your TV because oh we're down by one. All right, we're up by one now. Oh, we're down by 15 now in the
Yep.
fourth quarter. What happened to this game? You got outplayed, you got outcoached, everything. The whole game plan out the window. You're playing the Pistons, who are tanking for a draft spot, and you lose by 15. You get outscored by 15 in the fourth, or however much it was. It's just embarrassing.
I think it was 19.
19.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was bad. I mean, and you look at like Sadiq Bey is obviously a really good player. Like Kay Cunningham was going off, but those are very guardable guys. Like the defense just doesn't have the intensity. The bench is non-existent, and none of these guys are in rhythm. George Niang is nowhere near rhythm right now. Shake Milton is not in a rhythm right now. Danny Green is far from a rhythm as you could possibly be. And that's one thing about our bench is they're a lot of rhythm guys, and they're not getting rhythm minutes. You take away Furkan Korkmaz, what he's been getting like coach's decision, DMPs, and he plays 5 minutes last night. You're going to count on him in the playoffs. I promise you, you will. Doc Rivers will play him in a playoff game, and he's going to suck. and you're going to wonder why, because he does not have a rhythm, because Doc Rivers' rotations are abysmal. And that's just the fact about it, is that these guys, when they're called upon, they don't have a rhythm. And Tyrese Maxey hasn't been playing phenomenal as of late. And that's something that he doesn't need to play, great. He just needs to give us his 13, 14, 15 points and pretty good efficiency and good being able to space the floor and good energy, and let Joel Embiid cook. James Harden's a guy that he's got to turn it on, and he's got to do it soon. That hamstring, I feel like, has really caused some problems, and not necessarily his shot or anything about his game. It's just his confidence, I just feel like, isn't there. He needs to play like James Harden, in less like Ish Smith. You're James Harden guy. Like, go and get you a buck. Um, and that's just something that he hasn't been doing.
Yeah, and especially with the injury with Harden, I mean, you cannot be playing this guy 38, 40 minutes in a regular season game against the Pistons. He shot 4 for 15. Pull him. Give the bench a shot. I mean, you let this guy get some rest. Like, we go through
I
the
wouldn't be mad if we have 6 games left. I wouldn't be mad if James Harden only played like 2.
yeah, and I mean, depth is a huge thing in the playoffs. You need your your few solid bench guys to come in, hold your lead, or kind of, if you're losing, try to come back a little bit. But our bench is horrible right now. I mean, Doc Rivers said last night they weren't horrible. They just didn't get enough shots. And while I agree that they didn't get enough shots, they were horrible. They were horrible last night. Niang in 15 minutes shot 1 for 3. Shake Milton in 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 19 minutes shot 1 for 3. Danny Green in 11 minutes shot 0 for 3. DeAndre Jordan in 10 minutes 1 for 2. Furkan in 5 minutes 0 for 1. I mean, you need to tell these guys to be aggressive. Had a really solid few games, and you took him right back out of the lineup. Why? I don't get it. He's hitting threes. He's doing his thing. I mean, he had a breakout game last week or 2 weeks ago, and he got a DMP the next game. It makes no sense to me. I just
And
don't
like
get it.
Matisse went from playing a lot in the second half to playing none in the second half. And then all of a sudden he's playing a lot in the second half again. Like, none of this stuff makes sense.
Where did that come from? It it came out of nowhere. Matisse is playing 30 to 35 minutes, and then you look at the Bucks game, he didn't touch the floor in the second half. And the game before that, didn't touch the floor in the second half. You need defense. What are you doing? It Coaching decisions. It's all back to coaching decisions and a chess match between these
Yeah,
coaches.
and then last night he plays 32 again.
Yeah, it's where's the consistency with this team? It's you have 6 games in the regular season. You should have a set rotation by now. You should be figuring out your playoff rotation. That should be already figured out. I mean, guys should be in rhythm. We're in the end of the season, about to hit playoff time. Niang is out of rhythm right now. He's very inconsistent. Danny Green is off and on. Shake Milton is off and on. Furk, he'll give you a few solid buckets if you give him the opportunity. I mean, get these guys in rhythm and set your lineups. I don't understand what we're doing here. I mean, in the fourth quarter, we won't put Joel back in unless there's less than 7 minutes left on the clock. He won't put him in before. If we're struggling, won't put Embiid back in if there's 8 minutes left. It's very frustrating, and I don't care. I'll say until I'm blue in the face. It's coaching decisions after coaching decisions, and it needs to improve, and it won't.
No, I agree. I mean, the fact that you don't have a set rotation, and it's not that we don't have a set rotation right now. It's just that we're nowhere close. Like, we have no idea what the playoff rotation was look like, and I don't think Doc Rivers does either. I mean, everything that he's tried to implement for playoff rotation, Matisse Thybulle not playing the second half, that didn't work. Playing Paul Millsap, that didn't work. What's going to be next? He has no clue, and we have 6 games left in the regular season, and Doc Rivers does not have one idea what his playoff rotation will be like.
Yeah, you can see as clear as day is him experimenting rotations with 6 games left in the regular season. Embiid has played the entire first quarter for a majority of the season. I mean, for the last month, you've seen Doc pull him out with 5 minutes left to go in the first. Consistency is key. 6 games left in the regular season. You gotta figure this out. You've been in this league long enough. I mean, you should know by now.
Yep.
Consistency. Why are you experimenting with lineups with 6 games left? I mean, I could ramble about Doc Rivers all day, but man, it just gets tiring at some point.
Yep.
I'm so tired of it, man.
I agree. It's it is tiring, um, for sure. That it just doesn't get any better. Like there's no improvement, and there has been no improvement whatsoever since day one he was here. So there's nothing to look forward to in the playoffs other than hoping Embiid and Harden just absolutely go off. Which the latter half of that, Harden, will he go off? Will we ever see James Harden again? Is something I'm starting to think about. And there's way too many question marks for my liking. And if we do get past the Bulls, or whoever we play in the first round, hopefully it is the Bulls because I feel like that's the best shot we have of beating a team. But if we get past the Bulls, I don't know what we're going to do next. It would be an embarrassment to lose in 5 to the Heat, but right now that's where it's heading towards. And I hate to say it, but to be realistic, the way that we've been playing, that's where all signs are pointing to.
Yeah, I mean, if we do get a first round matchup against the Bulls, I expect to, beat them in 5. Nice little gentleman sweep, but I mean, you go against the Heat and the questions that we have about this team are major. It's not like, oh, we have like a few little holes in this team, kind of things we can hide. But no, we have major problems with this team. And it starts with Doc Rivers and James Harden and the bench. I mean, too many holes for this team. I don't see a shot where we win the finals or even reach the finals. I mean, I think next year's our best shot. Unload Tobias' contract, build up our bench, get a solid 4. Uh, I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I think that we're second round exits again, as always. Nothing much changed.
I mean,
Because at the end of the day, you still have Tobias Harris on a max contract and Doc Rivers as your head coach. There's so many limitations there. It would be a blessing to make the Eastern Conference Finals, which is not looking pretty right now.
yeah, we'd be lucky to make the Eastern Conference Finals. All right, to kind of chill out the mood for a little bit, we're gonna move on to before we started recording. Me and Graham came up with our top 8 for the MVP ladder.
As of right now,
As of right now, as of April 1st, 2022,
if the season ended today,
if the season ended today, this is our
yes.
MVPs. I guess we'll go back and forth and share. You share one, I'll share one,
All
two,
right,
and then
we'll
so
start
on.
off with number one. I'll go first. I have Giannis Antetokounmpo as my number one. He would be the MVP if I had a vote and if the season ended today.
And number one, my vote is also Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, this guy's on a whole nother level right now. You saw it last night against the Brooklyn Nets. Hit 2 clutch free throws. I mean, he this could be his third MVP, which is really insane to see. And you hear a lot of people talk about voter fatigue. There's no voter fatigue with this guy right now. He is on a roll. And the Bucks are the 2 seed right now and have a really good opportunity to get to that 1 seed. So
Yeah, they're
he's my
half
pick
game
for
back.
yeah, he's my pick for MVP right now. But obviously things could change. A lot can change in 6 games.
Yep. You go. Who you got number two? This is where people are going to be looking at.
I tried to make this as unbiased as possible. And this is my honest thought. I mean, you look at the entire season, you look at their numbers, you look at their record. For number 2, I have Joel Embiid.
Okay.
And my reasoning for that is he's been playing at a solid at a top 2 MVP candidate all year. I mean, they did a straw poll in February, right? Embiid was voted number 1 to win MVP. He's putting up some of the best numbers in the league from that poll in February up until now, and he gets moved all the way down to 3. I don't get how that makes sense. I think I think he deserves I think he deserves to be in the top 2, but it's sad to see. I do think Doc Rivers has a role to play in Joel dropping in the MVP rankings.
Yeah, so I have Jokic at 2, and I'll tell you that Embiid has dropped off this little bit, and it's not entirely his fault. Like, he's had good numbers, but value just hasn't been there. You can't lose to the Pistons and call yourself valuable. I'm sorry if it's not, it wasn't his fault, but that's just how it works. Especially in MVP when you get down to the stretch, and this is where MVPs are won and lost. I think that Embiid could definitely get to that number 2 spot. I just don't think anybody's topping Giannis right now, the way that he's been playing. I do think that if we did this in a week and when the Sixers play some more games under their belt and you get, some Joel master classes, he could pass Jokic. But right now, what Jokic is doing is quite incredible. What he's been doing all season long. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it either, but it's just the truth that he's a really, really, really good player. And what he's doing with the squad he has, the only knock on him would be the seeding. So as of right now, they got 46 wins. You look at the Sixers; they also have 46. So the Sixers are a 4 seed, Nuggets are the 6 seed. That's one thing. His value. He's not playing with the James Harden. He's playing without Jamal Murray and without Michael Porter Jr. And don't let Nuggets fans fool you. They have good players. Monte Morris is a really good player. I like Michael Green a lot. I think that they've had some good players. Aaron Gordon's pretty good himself. He's
Bones
definitely playing.
Highland.
Yeah, Bones High. Like he's definitely playing with good players, but he's not playing with James Harden. And that's one thing I feel like it's going to be a knock on Joel. So I have Joel at 3. I'm assuming you have Jokic at 3.
I do, and I originally had Joel at 3, but as I thought about it more, I did switch it, I did switch him to 2. I mean, what Jokic is doing without Murray and Porter Jr., I mean, it's incredible. As much as I hate to talk good about Jokic, you gotta give credit where it's due, and
Bro.
he deserves every little bit of it. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He's really fun to watch. I love watching Jokic. I watch a lot of Nuggets games. I watch a lot of players, but I just think what Joel has been doing this season has just topped it. And obviously the past week has hurt Joel's MVP case a little bit, especially last night losing to the Pistons. But I just think what Joel has done all season and what he's been through tops Jokic.
Yeah, I think that it could definitely go either way, but I'm just leaning towards Jokic right now, and a lot of that might have to do with recency bias. That's possible. I mean, it's it's a narrative driven award. There's no doubt about it. If I was an MVP voter, I would just slightly have the edge towards Jokic. And it might be because of the narratives of that Embiid's playing with Harden and the fact that Jokic doesn't have much help. He does have some help, but he doesn't have much help. And that Jokic has been a little bit more of a floor raiser this season. I will say that. And that's kind of important to me. I know many people wouldn't even care for that, but that does mean a couple of things when you talk about value, floor raising, and being that guy that's dominating the floor. That does have some sort of value to me, at least. I'm not sure to anybody else. It might. I don't know. Like a lot of people just don't care about that type of stuff. But that's just something that I would like to see in an MVP candidate. And all of them have it, but Jokic definitely is raising is has the best floor raising ability out of the three.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Embiid 3 and Jokic 2 or vice versa, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's your opinion. I mean, I'm talking to the fans out there, but both guys are phenomenal. I mean, I just don't think they're gonna top Giannis at all. All right, moving on to number 4, 4 and 5 spot. I had a lot of trouble with. I switched the 4 and 5 spot about 6 times. Who do you got?
All right, so I'm gonna say this. I did go back and forth between 4, 5, and 6. At number 4, I decided to go with Luka, and I'm gonna tell you, Luka has been balling out of his mind. If you look at his, I think um, since February, basically. I mean, he's averaging 32 points, 7 assists, and almost 10 rebounds a game. And he's put the Mavs in a really, really good spot where they are the 3 seed. I mean, what Luka has been doing is quite incredible. To average, 30 points over a span of 2 months and almost a triple double at that, and have your team 48 and 29 says a lot. And I think that Luka deserves a lot of credit for that. So as of right now, I have him at number 4.
This is gonna get a little tricky. Um, at number 4, and I do have a lot of reasons for this. I really do like this player. At number 4, I have Devin Booker. I mean, he's got the best record in the NBA. He's been balling out all year without Chris Paul. They're getting a lot of wins. I mean, he has a great supporting cast around him. Yes, but I mean, the stuff that he's been doing this season is just insane, and it'd be crazy not to include him in the MVP ladder. I mean, I love watching him. He's a really good player. He can torch you whenever he wants. I mean, he did struggle a lot against the Warriors the other night. That's why I was kind of debating on 4 and 5, but I do really like him. And I mean, I had a big problem with 4, 5, and 6 as well as you, but I put him I'm in my 4 slot.
Yeah, I mean, there's no problem with that. I'm not as high on Booker as I am Doncic,
Hmm.
and yeah, they both have phenomenal seasons. But Luca, that goes back to floor raising. I feel like Chris Paul is the dominant floor raiser on that team, and even though Book has done a lot of it, I just think I'm giving the Luca the edge. And you want to talk about seedings, but yeah, Devin Booker has a much better squad around him, especially when
Yeah.
you look at they traded, or the Mavs traded away Porzingis, and they made some moves that are questionable, and they're still in the spot they're in. Says a lot. Um, let's see, number 5. Who do you have at 5?
Number 5, I have Luka.
Okay,
Like you said, he's been doing insane things over the past few months. I mean, he's the 3 seed right now, which we didn't see
yeah.
coming, especially after the Porzingis trade. It's great what he's doing. I mean, almost a triple double he's averaging throughout the past few months. I mean, he's been doing fantastic, and it's a blast to watch him. I
Oh
mean,
man, I was just about to say that he is one of the best watches in the
oh
league.
yeah,
I mean,
I'll
yeah.
specifically watch Mavericks games just to watch Luka. He is a blast.
And I tell you, it is not just necessarily like me tuning into Mavericks games. I'll tell you this, Luca, something about him on prime time, it just brings out the best in him. I will say, where
Yep.
where when he's on like a primetime ESPN or TNT game, he plays really, really well. And that's fun to watch. Even though like a random Wednesday night is fun to watch when he's playing, the Trailblazers. But when he's playing like the Lakers or a team that's at the top, uh he's just fun to watch. And he really turns it on in the prime time, which I like about Luca a lot. All right, at my number 5. Ooh, this is one where I debated a lot on,
Mhm.
but we're talking about the best player on a team that has been playing really, really well, and I went back and forth, back and forth. But I'm gonna go Jason Tatum at number 5.
Mhm.
I really like Jason Tatum, another guy that I love to watch. I just hate that he's on the Celtics. I mean, he is a pure hooper. He can make so many shots. And there's one thing I will say that put him over the edge of some other guys that are in this contention right now. He has turned into an elite off-ball defender. Elite. His defense, especially off ball, has been incredible, especially once the Celtics, switched up the energy, and they went on this incredible run. His defense, man, if you really, really watch the games, watch Celtics games. I know they're hard to watch because nobody wants to listen to Scalabrine, neither do I. Just turn on the away teams or the other team's broadcast. But I mean, his defense, his anticipation, the way that he uses his length, he's finally doing it. He uses his length really well on defense. Anticipation is phenomenal. The way that he's in the passing lanes is something that I really, really like. I really like the way that he can defend the passing lanes, and that's kind of old school defense, where it's kind of the opposite of Matisse Thybulle, where Matisse is gambling a lot. You don't really see that too much with Jason Tatum, but they still have similar tendencies in that sense. But yeah, his off ball defense, man, that does not get talked about enough. He has become elite defensively, and I haven't even talked about his points per game yet. You look at since February 13th. I'll pull up this 31 points a game, seven rebounds, 5 assists, almost a steal. He's shooting 42% from three since then, and he has just been lighting it up. He is 50-40-90 club since then, averaging 31 points per game. Really good efficiency. He's been playing well on a really good team, and like I said, his defense is something that put him over the top and put him at 5 over some other guys that could be deserving. So I have Jason Tatum at 5.
Yeah, and literally, I agree with kind of everything you said because I have Tatum at 6. I
Okay.
mean, like you said, his defense does not get talked about enough. It's like the off-ball defense. He's using his size. He's improved in his playmaking ability at a time where the Celtics struggled at it. But the things he's been doing recently, I mean, he's gone from one of the bottom irrelevant teams in like the first quarter of the seasons to one of the best teams in the league and probably the hottest team in the league right now. It's just insane how much he's brought this team back into the playoffs and especially the 3 seed. He's definitely made his way up there, and if he was playing like this all year long, he'd be way higher on this list.
Yeah, I think I definitely say that. And for next season, he's put himself in a really good spot to be great. And that's one thing that I like about Jason Tatum, of just his style of play, and that he's really bringing it together. He's improved a lot, and he continues to improve year in, year out. So at number 6 for me, this is like a tie for 6th place. And I'm gonna go with who I put at 6 first, because this is very hard for me to make this decision. At number 6, I actually have Ja. So I had Ja at 4 for like majority of the season. Yes, he's missed some games, but he hasn't played bad. And the only knock on him is that the Grizzlies win without him, which yeah, of course they're winning pretty easy without him, but they haven't played great teams, and they're they're just finding ways to win. But when Ja plays, talking about the most exciting guy uh, to watch in the league. His teammates love playing with him. He's a very, very good passer of the ball, very good in playmaking, and he can get to any spot. He's shooting the three lights out. He could have a triple double on any given night, and he's been a catalyst for this for this Grizzlies team, not necessarily keeping up with the Suns, but keeping up with that 2 seed, which nobody thought they would. 54 wins for this Grizzlies team is something that I did not expect at all, and they still got some games left this season, which they're probably going to win. Ja Morant, heading into the playoffs last season, he showed that he's built for the playoffs. Like, he can play well in the postseason. I think that's going to be really good. Nobody wants to play a Grizzlies team even without Ja. Put an MVP candidate in there. Nobody wants to play him. But what the point I'm getting to is, even when teams go on these stretches, usually they fall off. You look at like a team like the Grizzlies. Everybody expected the Grizzlies to fall off when they got hot early, and they won some games without Ja. But Ja is the one that has kept them together, and he's won some games by himself for this Memphis team, and he is really a huge factor in their 54 wins this year. I mean, the guy's averaging what 27 points per game. Even when like he hasn't played the last 6 games off the top of my head. I watch a lot of Grizzlies games because I know how just exciting Ja is. But we're talking about a guy that can get 50, but he could also turn around and give you a 27-point triple double. And I think that's what you're talking about value. And when you have a team with 50 plus wins, the best player on that team, and it happens to be Ja Morant.
Yeah, moving on to my number 7 spot, I do have Ja Morant. I mean, the stuff that this guy has been doing this season is just it's mind-blowing. I do think the Grizzlies' record without him hurts his MVP case a lot.
Yes, I do
Um,
think that hurts. But you look at the Grizzlies, and they've been shooting like unrealistically good without him. So
yeah,
there's another side to that as well.
you wanna talk about a good front office, the Memphis
Facts.
Grizzlies building the most perfect team around their star player. You dominate with him, and you dominate without him. It's insane how what a good front office can do for a star player, and Ja is must-watch TV, as is Luka Doncic. I mean, the height, the vertical that this guy has, the I love to see him try to go post or somebody, and he misses a lot of times, but it's so fun to watch the crazy blocks he gets. I mean, everything he does on the court is just must watch TV. And I expect him, especially next year, to kind of move up, just like Tatum, like Luca. I do expect all three of those guys to be in the top 5 for MVP next year.
Yeah, and I will say this about the Grizzlies. I know they clinched the Southwest Division. I can't remember the last time they've done that. That might be I'm not even exaggerating. I saw on Twitter where they had clinched the division, and
Did they clinch it with Conley and Gasol?
I don't think so because that was during like the Popovich Spurs era where they were really good in that
Yeah,
division,
right,
and
right,
also you're
right.
talking about Russ and KD and OKC.
Right, right.
So I don't think I'm going to look this up. I don't think they've won a Southwest Division because you look at the times and they've come and they were in Vancouver, of course, so they weren't in the Southwest.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. But I think that because I was thinking about, how many times because I know the Rockets have been really good. They won it when they had Harden. The Spurs, obviously, before that, and then you switch in OKC in there, and you're talking about, a team that just went from Vancouver. Yeah, it was their first Southwest Division tie. So my senses were right on that when I saw it on
Mhm.
Twitter the other day. So that's also good for John and for that team to win their first Southwest Division title. That's pretty cool.
What do you have for 7?
At number 7, I have D Book. Talking about a really good, really good player. Only knock on him, like I said, Chris Paul is undoubtedly the best floor raiser on the team. He's a phenomenal player, but I feel like I would put like Chris Paul also in the top 10, even though he's missed some time. But Chris Paul is super valuable, and a lot of people don't like him, but I do. I think he's a good player, and I think that's not a knock on Devin Booker. It's just that he like the the Suns' success is not all on him. And you look at like Mikal Bridges is playing really well. They've got a really like well-rounded team. Cam Payne has been playing phenomenal. I mean, yeah, like Devin Booker's like great, and he's been playing phenomenal. But I think that the fact that you can't, center a lot of the team's success around this one player like you can with Luka or you can with Ja or Jason Tatum, you can't do that too much. You can a lot for Devin Booker, but not as much as the other guys, which I have him at 7. And I love watching Devin Booker play. But with Chris Paul doing all that he does, that just hurts, the value case for Devin Booker just that much.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It does hurt a little bit. I didn't make it as effective on my ladder. I put him in 4, of course, but I
But
mean,
yeah, I mean, there's nothing
obviously,
wrong with that. I mean, he's the
yeah,
best player on the best team. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
I
there's
just
definitely something with that.
I just think that, you're the best player on a team with the best record in the NBA. I mean, you have to be in you don't have to be in the top 5, but he's in my top 5.
Yeah, and like I said, I love Chris Paul a lot, and I watch a lot of Sun games, and I see what he does when he's on the court. Come on, a guy that can get 20 assists anytime he wants, and I feel like that's value right there. And not saying that Devin Booker doesn't have more value than Chris Paul because he does, but they have such a balanced effort in some games, which I feel like that says a lot. And it's not a knock on Devin Booker; it's that you just can't put more than 90 or more than 90% of the success of one team on one player like you can the other guys. So
Yeah,
that's why I have D Book at 7. All right, who you got at 8? This is our last one.
you go first.
I got DeMar.
I also have DeMar.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
DeMar.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, you have to put him in there. I mean,
yeah,
the Bulls have dropped off like crazy in the past like month. I mean, they've been losing a lot of bad games. Obviously, they've dealt with a lot of injury problems this year, but just a lot of people thought that DeMar and this Bulls team wasn't going to work out. But wow, have they blown a lot of people's expectations out of the water. 30 points after 30 points. He went like I forget how long of a streak it was where he scored 30 plus, but
yeah,
it's insane. And he had a fantastic game last night. I
mhm.
mean, just the level of play that he's at, especially his years at in San Antonio, and he's just come into Chicago and just playing like this MVP caliber player. It's really fun to watch, and one of the best mid ranges I've ever seen.
Look, what he did at the beginning of the season was really really good, and you can't deny that. Even though they've fallen off a bit, what he was doing, mid season, early season, for this Bulls team when they were 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, that still says a lot. And his MVP, it's a full season award, so I do have to give him credit for when he was top 4 in the MVP at one point. Like that's not an exaggeration. So I think that DeMar, even though the Bulls have fallen off a bit, he's still playing great, and you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, eh, he's just taking his game to a whole nother level, and it's fun to watch. But that's our top 8. I mean, you got anything more to
We'll
add for
go
that?
through them. I'll go through mine just so we can give the listeners um, exactly what they are. So for me, I've got Giannis at 1, Jokic 2, Embiid 3, Doncic 4, Tatum 5, Morant 6, Booker 7, DeRozan 8. That's my top 8 MVP ladder right now as of April 1st.
Yep, and my MVP ladder is number 1, Giannis, number 2, Joel Embiid, number 3, Jokic, number 4, Devin Booker, number 5, Luka Doncic, number 6, Jason Tatum, number 7, John Morant, and number 8, DeMar DeRozan. Some pretty good lists, all the same guys in the top
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like there's an undoubtable 3, and then there's
mhm,
also another tier of 5.
yeah,
And that's the 8 that make up the MVP ladder.
yeah. And moving on to kind of the playoff picture right now. The top 4 seeds in the East are decided by 2.5 games. Miami Heat are in first place. Uh, Milwaukee Bucks are right behind them, half a game. Boston Celtics are 2 games behind the Heat. The Sixers are 2.5 games behind the Heat in fourth place. Kind of looking at the playoff picture here, you got Brooklyn and Cleveland. If the playoffs ended, if the regular season ended today, you would have Cleveland playing Brooklyn. I would take Brooklyn in that game
In a
to take on
play-in, you're right, yeah.
in a play-in game to take on Milwaukee in a playoff series, and then in that 9 and 10 game, Atlanta and Charlotte, I would have Atlanta winning, but Cleveland
In the in
beating
the
them.
in that loser game for the 8th seed.
Yeah, in the loser
So
game for the eighth
so
seed.
as of right now, it would be from what you say, and I agree with you. I agree with you. So what we're saying, it would be Miami 1 versus 8 seed Cavs. And then
Yes.
on that side of the bracket, you would have Sixers 4 seed, Bulls 5 seed. 6 seed on the other side would be Toronto, 3 seed Boston, 2 seed Milwaukee, and like we said, 7 seed being Brooklyn playing Milwaukee in that series.
Yep.
So I like these. I like these matchups. I would think that Miami Cavs might get a little competitive because we don't know how well Miami's going to shoot, and Darius Garland's a really good player. And I like the Sixers against the Bulls. I guess that's a favorable matchup. One thing interesting I want to talk about before we wrap it up: 3-seeded Boston, 6-seeded Raptors. So the Celtics have declined to say who is vaccinated, who's unvaccinated. In Toronto, you can't. I mean, you can't enter the country in Canada for if you're going to play an event there if you are unvaccinated. There have been Sixers also did not. They declined to comment on vaccination status for their players. So Celtics and Sixers, ESPN reached out to them. They both declined. I think this is interesting because they played once in Toronto, and that was just a couple days ago, and the mandate came into effect on January 15th. So they played March 28th. First time in Toronto they played since the mandate was in effect. And you look at some guys for the Celtics that didn't play: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. So my guess is one of those three are not vaccinated. And we can eliminate Al Horford because he was part of the 100% vaxxed OKC team last year. And it's between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, which is not a good sign for the Celtics, which is interesting. I don't think it's both of them. I think that the Celtics would do something about that if it was both of them. But yeah, that's very interesting to think about. If they were to play the Raptors, I'm going to say, let's just say it's Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown wouldn't be able to play in Toronto in a series, and you let Nick Nurse double team Jason Tatum. You don't have Rob Williams. That could not be a recipe for success for the Celtics. So
Yeah,
I
I
think that,
mean,
God, that's interesting to think about especially from the Celtics. I'm gonna say it's Jaylen Brown. I think Jason Tatum is gone out on record and say that he's vaccinated. And not it's not a knock on Jaylen Brown, but he kind of seems like a guy that it'd be a pretty good guess for him not to be vaccinated. And I think that's kind of the rumor going around. People are picking up on it. So if you're going to play, and again, this is completely a rumor that Jaylen Brown's unvaccinated. He might be, but we'll just say that he is. If you're going to play a playoff series and you can't have your second best player on the road, and we're not talking about any road environment, we're talking about Toronto. We the North up there. That could be detrimental.
yeah. I mean, hey, if Toronto wins both of those first two home games, or the second,
Yeah,
the game 3 and 4, and they steal Celtics home game, Celtics are in big trouble. Now, while I still believe Boston would win that series, it could
it
be
would
in
be
some
a
major
lot
trouble.
tougher. It would be a
Yeah.
lot tougher than it would be if they had like
Yeah.
JD or one of the guys. And again,
But
they're also going to play without Rob Williams at that time.
yeah.
I saw he could come back in the Eastern Conference Finals,
Yep.
which, I mean, if you want to rush your guy back, fine. But
From
yeah,
a meniscus tear.
yeah,
Is that what it was?
I think so. Yes.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
But yeah, I feel like that's an interesting, sub storyline that not too many people are talking about. Is starting to gain some traction, but there is, it could be the Sixers. Like on the Sixers, who do you think it is? If they
I
decline,
if I had
like, it would say the Sixers declined to comment, so that pretty much leads us to believe there's at least one. It can't be James Harden. It can't be Joe. Joel's already said he was vaccinated. Can't be James Harden because he played in Brooklyn. Can't be Paul
can't be
Millsap.
Millsap.
Can't be DeAndre Jordan because he played in LA.
My
So
guess would be either Niang or Danny Green.
I just have a feeling it might be Danny. I don't think it's George Niang. Yeah, who knows? But
I'm just throwing guesses out
yeah,
there.
it's a
We literally have
It's
no
we have no
idea.
clue. We have no clue. It's speculation. If you had a guess, if I had a guess, I'd go Danny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, Danny wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, Niang wouldn't surprise me. There's a few guys that wouldn't surprise me, but
Yeah.
I mean, it could affect if we ever matched up in the playoffs with the Raptors, which I don't see happening, but it's a possible choice. But moving on to the 4-5 seed matchup, potentially could be Philly and Chicago. And I do think while the Bulls can give us a little bit of trouble, I think we gentlemen sweep them in 5. I
Yeah,
think it's
I'd say 5 or 6. Um, the Bulls are a good team. They're just not as good as the Sixers. And that's been proven. Like I'm not going out. That's not a hot take. Like it's literally been proven this season. So I think that's a kind of the best case scenario for the Sixers. I don't want to play Toronto. I don't want to play Nick Nurse. I don't
no,
want to play the.
I
I don't
never
want
want
to.
to play Nick Nurse.
I don't want to play the Cavs. Believe that. They've given us troubles this year. But yeah, I think that's probably the best case scenario for us to play the Bulls.
Yeah. I mean, we've given the Bulls trouble all year. I mean, we swept them in the regular season. I think it'll be an easy kind of gentleman sweep or 6 games. But yeah, that's kind of the Eastern Conference playoffs for you.
And we'll get into more of that when we come back next week. There's going to be a lot going on for next Friday's episode. So we're going to get
Yeah.
into the playoffs. Going to pretty much be ramping up by that point. Season's going to come dwindling to the end. Phillies will have their opening day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be fun. Going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. I think we should do another probably mailbag or Q&A for that.
Yeah.
Since there is so much. So we'll interact with you guys throughout the weekend. Make sure you guys enjoy your weekend for sure. Go Sixers, and hopefully we don't suck again. Justin, appreciate you. It was a pleasure. This was the
Also a
Seeds.
pleasure, Graham. It was a great
Yes.
episode. I mean, talked about a lot, but if you're a fan of the podcast, make sure to look forward to playoffs because we're gonna be pumping out 2 episodes
Yep.
a week due to
And again,
playoffs.
check
And
out Linktree. It's the main
check
thing.
out the link tree in our Twitter bio. You can find our Twitter at what is it? SFTS
FTS.
podcast
Yes.
underscore. Make sure to check out the link tree. Make sure to follow our socials. Subscribe, like, leave a rating. Thank you so
Yes.
much for
The
watching.
Linktree is your best friend.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for watching and peace out.
Peace. Go Sixers.